So, hey, Dr. Kennard, BigZebra.com, and of course, Tobin Templeman doing the Quentin Tarantino lighting, Man in Shadows, Dark Lord of the Sith, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. So, you guys have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was productive. I did some wrestling with my computer. I found out my computer was making triple copies of one thing. If I uploaded one thing, it would make two copies to store on the computer and then try to send it off to the cloud.
Oh
And
my
man, I
God.
gummed up the computer. Like it wouldn't allow me to move nothing. So I had to do some cleaning up, you know?
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah, that sounds like a mess. I too
Yeah.
was fighting technology over the weekend. Um, as many of you know, I'm just incompetent with technology. I'm just incompetent,
Mm,
maybe globally. I mean, I know microphone. My therapist told me no negative self-talk.
right.
I know. But with a new project, it's a new system for me, and so I've been trying to figure words out. I was able to upload an avatar of myself, so that was a plus, right?
That's great. By the way, you mentioned that you might talk more about your secret project today.
Yeah, yeah,
What
this
can
is
you
true.
tell us?
So let's see. Secret project, it's going along pretty well. I'll be able to actually give the everything about it in a couple of days, actually. 7 days, maybe
Oh,
8 days. And so,
Heck
what's
yeah.
up, Rage?
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Look,
Yeah. Is this pre-ball, Rage?
No, I'm about to hit the fourth or fifth one probably.
Oh, wow. Wow,
Yeah, I've been
dude.
I've been up a while today.
Wow.
oh,
Wow.
I still
Well,
haven't gotten that damn COVID test back for my daughter, so I'm really antsy and
whoa.
just
dude, I
getting
gotta
fed up and shit, you know.
I gotta tell you, I had my first test lost by the people who took it. I uh,
Oh,
they
I'd
just
be
never,
pissed.
it just lost.
I'm
It
kind of
yeah.
didn't.
regretting not going and getting the at home one now. You know, like I would have known in 10 minutes if I'd have just done that.
Yeah, dude, you're right. You're right.
Oh,
I will tell you this is that the most positive thing about the new project is that my boss basically said, Andy, we know you're not technically capable, but you seem to know things about things. And so what
mhm.
we want you to do is just tell us what you think, and then we'll see. Don't even worry if it's possible. Don't even worry if it's possible. We will figure that out at our end. And
Mhm.
I'm like, that
That
sounds like
sounds
you
really cool.
it sounds like you're giving a monkey a gun, to quote my pal, right? But if you're gonna give me a monkey with a gun, if you're gonna make me give this monkey a gun, I'm gonna use it. So
Oh,
basically, I spent a bunch of time like emailing and messaging people really stupid questions like, I don't know if this is possible, but
right.
this would work really well if it was possible.
Actually, I think that's a good thing to do because then you find out what's possible and what isn't.
Right?
That's
Yeah.
why you do it.
When you don't know what's possible, you're like,
Mm.
I don't know if it is or not. And so yeah,
Oh, speaking of monkey with a gun, I used to have a brilliant T-shirt. You remember Curious George and the
oh
man
sure,
with the big yellow
Oh
hat?
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
It was a T-shirt of a yellow hat and a monkey with a gun on the floor in front of him,
Yeah.
and the hat had a big bullet hole through it,
Oh my.
and it was wonderful. I wish I still had it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, funny little Boston fact, or more like Cambridge. There was a Curious George store in Harvard
Mm.
Square for quite a
Really?
while, for a number of years. Yeah. The apocalypse destroyed it. Put it out of business. But there's going to be a comedy. The comedy studio is going to be in there along with a restaurant bar, and that's going to be happening. I don't know when they're going to be officially opening, but it's going to be soon, sometime soon.
Okay.
So it's pretty positive. And back in the day during the 80s, I believe that spot was Catch a Rising Star. It was one of those, chain comedy,
Right.
comedy clubs.
Strangely, the biggest comedy club is Canadian. It's called Yuck Yucks, and they're all over Canada.
I've heard of Yuck Yucks. Sure.
And they had a horrifying contract where if you wanted to perform there, you had to sign it,
Yeah.
and it gave away your life and your firstborn child, and even Jim Carrey, when he was earning like $20 million of a film, had
Mhm.
to send like 10% to this guy who owned the
Yeah.
comedy clubs because he got his start there.
Yeah.
And eventually, the contract was so oppressive that it actually got challenged in court, and they did something so that it wasn't so horrifying anymore.
Well, the nature of this is my personal theory is that the
Mhm.
closer you get to raw capitalism, the more corruption there is, and the more people get screwed over. So there is a similarity between the basic business model of comedy in clubs, and
Mhm.
as well to let's say a used car salesman, right? They're there to soak you as much as they can,
Oh yeah.
and when you're dealing with so when you're a comedian, it's difficult because you have to deal with bookers, which are basically middlemen between you and the club. You have to deal
Mm.
with the club people themselves, and then you got to deal with the other assholes who are actual comedians.
You know, that is one of the things. If you are actually an entertainer, one of the best moves that you can make is to actually get a lawyer. At least this is what I've learned, and what I've come to understand is that getting yourself a lawyer is one of the best moves you can do in the early times, because they can read the contracts and be
Yeah,
like, no, dude, you don't want that. And a lot of times they are gatekeepers. They
yeah,
can not only protect you while you're signing stuff, but they can also shop around and bring your music to different, or bring your comedy or whatever entertainment it is
yeah.
to different places.
And you're spot on with that, Tobin. If you can afford a lawyer, or if you can find one who is a friend or a friend of a friend, just to look over basic documents, right?
Yeah, finding one. Now that's I have actually looked for one for my needs, and I still haven't found one yet.
Yeah, yeah. They're tough. Typically, entertainment lawyers. I found a lawyer years ago because I took their seminar. I took a class, adult education stuff, on script writing, and I've had her look at when I was doing script writing regularly. I've had her take a look at some of the contracts, and there weren't that many. Don't get me wrong. There were just some bullshit stuff, and there seems to be a lot of bullshit and bullshit.
Mm.
Yeah, everybody's looking to get one over on the next person.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's the nature of capitalism, right? Once again, the closer you are to the free market, the more they just want to. It's more of a home to shysters and grifters.
I find it really disturbing because there's so much to be said for the free market, and then you get some asshole out there saying, "How can I ruin someone's life?" or
Well,
something to that effect.
yeah, it's predatory. That's what it is. It's predatory, and that's why unions are so important. I know that there was a documentary on the Comedy Store out in L.A.
Hmm.
That you can still find on cable somewhere, on some streaming service maybe. And Jimmy Walker, Jimmy Walker from
Dynamite.
from Kid Dynamite, right? There was a attempt back in the day to form a united front to get like basic wages, you know,
Mm.
from the owner of the Comedy Store. Laughing at
A
disbelief.
friend of mine was doing well in stand-up comedy. I'm sorry, I talked over you, Doctor.
Oh, that's no, I'm just reading from what Jesse Bear was saying. I
Go ahead.
watched something recently that YouTube celebrities get taken advantage of all the time as talent. Yeah, because it's such a new thing, and most people don't know they need someone to protect them. This is true. This is true, Jesse Bear.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. There are people who want to. If you are and I'm going to use the most wankerish of terms, even if you're like a micro influencer, right? There will be people who contact you. Like people have contacted me on my small Instagram account, or I just got actually a message from someone on my Facebook page in Laughing in Disbelief asking me if I want to do some kind of commercial venture or if I want to, do some advertising for them. It's like, well, I don't know who you are. So I'm not going to say yes. but you need to send me information, basically. So even if you're a small time person, there are people who will want to use you and use your platform.
Yeah.
My brother is a lawyer, and he's had lawyers send the equivalent of, you might call it an Easter egg email. And, well, I call it that, but it's not really an appropriate term. What happens is that in the middle of this email, there's a sentence
Yeah.
where it says, and in our telephone confirmation, you confirmed that you and your client have no evidence to support your claim whatsoever, and blah 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 blah.
Lawyers love
And yeah, and my brother would write back and say, under no circumstances are you to write me a letter or phone me ever again, and you now must get a senior partner from your firm to contact me.
Yeah.
And he does all sorts of shit and deals with that crap. And when a lawyer does something like that to him,
Yeah.
he goes out of his way to make everything else unpleasant for them and difficult and rigorous and
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and he just tries to fuck them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is kind of, to your point of socialism. I've been looking into this, or socialism and capitalism. Your points about capitalism. I've been looking into this a lot, trying to like decide: am I like a true socialist? Am I just that progressive I've always considered myself to be? And I've been really looking at this. And if you look at this country in the late 19th century, early 20th century, there were a lot of socialists here.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of workers' rights movements. I mean, and we talk about this all the time. This is how we got the weekend. This is how we got 40-hour work weeks and certain things. But after World War II, all of that changed. After our allyship with Russia, we were no longer allies. We were enemies. We split Berlin. Andy, you know the whole history of World War II. And we immediately, it was around 1945, started to undo the New Deal and demonize the socialists that were in the country. And within like 10 years, nobody was identifying as socialist anymore within this country. So the capitalists had unfettered access to the country. Like, it was just capitalist now. And to your point, like when it's just raw capitalism, when there's no counterbalance to that, we have what we have today. And especially, like, one of the most surprising things I learned is like some of your biggest movie stars in the entertainment industry, like people that you would expect to have some like say in projects or some pull. No, they get treated like shit by the studio. They're basically considered just hired help and have no say at all. And it was a surprising thing to me. And it speaks of just how even at the highest levels, you could be making all of these millions upon millions of dollars, you're still getting treated as shit for being the quote unquote worker.
Yeah. Just because you're the talent doesn't mean you get treated well.
Exactly. Yeah, and that kind of surprised me when I found that out. And as far as socialism, I'll never get on board like revolutionary socialism. I'm anti-war, I'm anti-gun. I just can't go there. But if there can be a socialist that's for just democracy in the workplace, then I would consider myself a socialist.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of different flavors of socialism in the Tsarist Russia.
Without a doubt, yeah.
You had Mensheviks. Mensheviks were basically people who thought that capitalism would destroy itself, and that all they had to do was wait. Right? They had to do just set up their own institutions, educate people, and that at some point there will be an implosion of capitalism. The Bolsheviks, the one who took over, they were the ones who were much more aggressive. They were they were a minority party within the communist movement, but they were focused on working with the military. They were focused on forming militias. They were very motivated.
Yeah, Dr. Wolf talks about that extensively. It's like he almost has to reiterate that every single time he talks about Marxism, is that from the very beginning of socialism, this whole revolutionary thing has been debated, and the revolutionaries took over, the utilizing state to enforce great change took over, but more and more now, like the new socialism, according to Dr. Wolf, is on that worker level in the workforce, trying to change the dictatorships we live under when we go to work every day, where we spend most of our time every day. So it's really fascinating once you look at it.
Yeah. The simplest case for socialism is that it's basically trying to bring democracy into the economic sphere, right? It's trying to make it not like a tyranny of the bosses.
The great tenet of socialism is we can do better than capitalism.
Yeah.
Oh.
So how are you feeling, Rage? Anyway, how are you physically doing?
Pretty good. I kind of woke up with a cold. Like this whole like COVID test thing put my foot doctor appointment off a month and a half. So that's got me like, I deal with that every day. But I'm pretty good.
Good, dude. Good. Glad to hear it.
Well, no, we're supposed to get dumped on today. Like we were supposed to get dumped on yesterday, but I guess it's on its way now. So we're gonna get like 6 inches of snow or something today.
Oh yeah, yeah, snow.
That's the thing. Snow looks beautiful when it first comes down, and then about 15 minutes later, you're trying to dig out your car, or you're worried that your roof is going to collapse. It's not so fun.
Yeah, it is really pretty at first, and then people start walking through it, and it gets sludgy. Like, man, it's a gray and brown winter for most of the time. It's not a white winter.
No.
The streets of Boston, the side streets, or even the main streets, which are pretty narrow in comparison to like Western cities, like out, where there's space, the roads get pretty crazy. 2-lane roads become effectively one lane road, or 1.5 lane roads. It's an adventure. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And y'all salt
Boston
the roads
is
so much.
for that.
Y'all salt the roads so much it like eats away at y'all's cars. Like it's
you've got to wash your car every week for sure.
Yeah.
And you have to watch out if you're in a place like Winnipeg. You can't salt the roads because it's too cold for salt to work, so you have to use sand. And then I once drove from Winnipeg to Brandon, Manitoba, and when I got there, the car arrived. The car was so covered in sand, and it was a rental, and I wasn't quite sure what color it was when I went, and I had to check, and it was green when I left and brown when I arrived.
Yeah, we found that out the hard way here during when we were getting all those polar vortexes a couple winters in a row. We found out the hard way. Salt isn't working, and there was a lot of wrecks. And they started using sand because it would get so cold that salt doesn't work.
Can you tell us where you live, Raging Atheist, without giving away your undisclosed location?
I'm in Michigan.
Okay, that's far enough north to get
land of the crazy, and we have a real winter.
Yeah. Oh.
It hasn't been as bad though. We had a couple bad, those polar vortexes, but like recently, last 10 years, it has been nothing like growing up. Like I remember before I moved to North Carolina, you had to dig tunnels to get to your car. The snow would be so deep. You'd have 20-foot drifts, and we haven't had anything like that. It's been real mild. This one is supposed to be a doozy, though.
You'd get a 20-foot drift in North Carolina?
Oh, in Michigan. No, that was before I moved to North Carolina, because I moved down to North Carolina when I was in the fourth grade, and I lived down there for most of my high school life. Junior high and high school, stuff like that.
The last big snow we had was back in 2015, and that's when it was taller than my kids. Basically, the snow drifts.
Mm-hmm.
But so what's the over under that Joel Osteen, and I saw that Simply Secular Dave put this.
Yeah, I saw it too.
So what's the over under that Joel Osteen put all that money into the fucking walls of his church, of Lakewood Church? I'm guessing that most of us know the story, right?
Yeah.
Plumber found tons of cash.
It can't really be. I mean, if you don't put legitimate money in walls, do you?
You put shady money. You put mattress money into walls. You put money that like that meme, right? Mr. White from Breaking Bad. You throw that kind of money into
Yeah.
walls.
I have mixed feelings about prosperity preachers because they prey on rich people. I don't like it when it trickles down to the middle class. A lot of middle class people get caught up, but
Yeah.
they're preying on rich people. And I'm like, if rich people want to throw away their money for stupid shit, I'm all for that. For stuff that doesn't matter, but at the same time, these people are just con men. Like they're just
By the way,
taking advantage of human beings.
I looked it up because I'm ashamed to say I didn't know about a plumber finding money in the walls of Joel Osteen's church. But he also found checks.
Yeah, he
What
found
is
checks.
the point in keeping checks there?
It strikes
Those
me
go
as
fast, don't they?
it strikes me like as a smash and grab operation, but there may not
Yeah.
have been a smash, but you just grab whatever you can.
It's
right?
like when they finally figure out what we've been doing all of these years, we got to have our getaway ready.
Yeah.
Yes, but checks aren't going to help you.
Yeah, I don't get the
Cash
checks
will
either.
help you.
The checks, that's the weird thing.
So I'm wondering whether or not, and like most of you, I've only saw the basic story, so I don't know if the checks were in the same envelopes as the money, because that would, because if the checks were just in the money, it's just like, well, we're just going to throw this in here and for a rainy day fund, or if it was really thievery, which makes you wonder, why would anyone do that? Why would thieves, just not walk out with, a backpack of money, or stuff their pants with money? I don't know. But if checks were in like their own little envelopes, then you have to ask, like, why?
I don't even get these rich people anymore, because since Trump's tax cuts, the U.S. is basically a tax haven. If you look at the numbers, since Trump's tax cut, U.S. rich people massively are no longer using offshore accounts. They just keep their money here.
Yeah, there are a couple of states that are I think South Dakota is really good as a tax haven.
I think I found something here. There was a report 7 years ago that a ton of money had been stolen out of their safe.
Stolen.
And if that's the case, then you can make a claim when money is stored in a secure facility like a safe, it's probably insured. So money stolen from a safe is then refunded to you, and then you've got both.
I like the scam angle of that, bigzebra.com. I like the scam. That's good.
Or if somebody was on the inside, figures out how to steal money from a safe, and then hides it in a wall to later get at somehow. But I think the scam angle is probably the best.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, if
those
I had...
checks are just that's just weird, and there has to be some kind of scam going on here. You just don't put money in the walls for nothing, and you don't put checks in the walls for nothing.
Yeah. I like the scam theory. I know that I know that if I had a lot of money, I would want mattress money. It might be wall money, it might be mattress money. I don't know. I'm paranoid. If I had a lot of money, maybe there would be money in my walls. I don't know.
This is crazy, though. I mean, a plumber found this money, right?
Yeah, dude. He was working on a loose toilet. He was taking a couple of tiles out from the wall, and guess what? It was a bonanza of envelopes stuffed with crap.
Why would you stick money in the wall near pipes where water is at? That has got to be the worst spot you could pick.
Christopher,
to store.
You can. I see Christopher. I don't know if you guys can see. He seems to be quite rambunctious gentleman there. If you want to say something or communicate with us, there's a side chat you can write in. I don't know if anyone knows Christopher, but you got to be part of the community, or someone has to vouch for you to come on the show.
I don't see Christopher anywhere. Let me check.
Okay, he's gone. Yeah, I think he was just there to spout off something.
Oh, okay.
He looked like he was in the midst of popping off, might be the term.
Right. There was a guy in very early who said something about you've been conned because those people aren't the real right wingers, and such and such and such. And
There's nothing like
So that's a false
the one
flag.
true Scotsman argument with the Nazis talking about other Nazis. It's like those not the not real Nazis. We're the real Nazis.
That's the tragic state of the Republican Party right now, is that those awful Tea Party conservative people that we always thought was so horrible aren't considered real Republicans anymore.
Yeah.
They're not bad enough.
It's a race to the bottom. That's what it is.
Mhm.
It's a race to the bottom. And it's going to keep happening until one of two things happen. It's either they win it all or they lose enough elections that they realize we can't do this anymore. It's going to be one of those two things.
Well, they might end up winning elections though on it. So, and that's what's really scary.
Well,
like,
you know,
what's the dude's name? He ran for president. He didn't go very far.
David Duke?
Walsh, the Walsh guy. He used to be this Tea Party conservative Republican that I despised. Joe Walsh, that's his name.
Joe Walsh.
Yeah, and you know, he was like, he looks around and he's like, you know, what Trump is doing, that's not Republican, that's not conservative, and he says anything about it, and now like that douchebag just isn't bad enough to be in the Republican Party anymore, and now he grifts to the left now, and it's kind of like, wow, this is the state of the country we live in.
You know, this is the thing. I see these middle of the road Republicans who helped pave the way for today's Trumpists, for today's fascists, these middle of the road Republicans. They're now showing up on CNN. And you know what? One of my most horrible thoughts that go through my head is like, at times, I just want Trump to come back in power so that you guys can end up on the same rail car as I am, so I can yell at you on the way to the camp. It's like, you know.
Well, Michael Cohen doesn't think that Trump will actually run again because after losing, you know, he's too big a narcissist. So what he thinks is he's going to try to run shit from the shadows. You know, that's Michael Cohen's theory.
Michael Cohen is okay.
Yeah, take it as a grain of salt.
Yeah, Michael Cohen. I don't know if I said hello to Cindy Plaza, but hello, Cindy. But, you know, the thing is, right, I'm going to put on my amateur psychologist hat. And Donald J. Trump is not a difficult person to figure out. That man loves to fight. He loves to win. He just loves doing it. And he got in the big chair for 4 full years, and then he got kicked out by fucking Joe Biden of anyone. Joe Biden, right?
And anybody can beat Joe Biden right now. If Trump runs again, he'll beat him.
Like Joe Biden, who lost, who just kept running for president time after time after time, and lost miserably. So in Trump's brain, he's thinking, I lost to that loser, and it's
got to be eating him up.
It is. You know,
there's no way that Donald Trump could govern from the shadows.
Yeah, he's not that guy.
That's not in him.
Yeah, he's not that guy. It's like asking whether or not Joe Stalin could, you know, just kind of kick back and relax a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. I think it's a scary place that we're in.
What's that, Rage?
I was just saying, I think it's a scary place that we were in. Nothing. Go ahead, Big Zebra.
Go up, Z. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just saying hi at what I thought was a blank moment, and
yeah.
But I find that if true, this Joel Osteen story is really interesting, and I'm just wondering how far the grift goes. Maybe there will be a huge accounting investigation, which, of course, once you grifted legally in quotes, why does he have to grift more? He's not doing anything illegal by getting money from suckers.
This is what I've noticed about our species, is that we're fucking irrational. I know this comes as a surprise to many of you, because we would like to think, you know, our minds would like to trick us into thinking that we're rational beings, right? And I'm speaking about myself. I like to trick myself into thinking that that I make rational decisions, and that they're just not based on race, class, gender, random situations that I found my life in, that I find myself in. I would like to believe that I make rational decisions based on the maths, right? But we're not. We are not that species. So why does Joel Osteen grift? He loves it. It makes him feel good, right?
Yeah.
What grifters love. I mean, this circular argument, this circular logic, but it's like,
I
why?
think. Oh, go ahead.
But
I don't
why
mean to
the
cut you off.
extra grift? He didn't need an extra
I think
$200,000.
I think money's addictive.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And oftentimes that's how it's usually I mean, outside of like pedophilia or sexual misconduct, it's really the only way you can bring these preachers down because they're so constitutionally protected is
Yeah.
because money's addictive and they eventually do the wrong thing with it and they break the law. I mean, I think that it's become harder and harder for rich people to get caught breaking the law, but I think that's it. It's just it becomes so addictive. You want more and more of it that you take bigger and bigger risks to get it.
Simply Secular Dave says Trump basically has to run so he can pardon himself, his family, his cronies, and all the people he needs favors from after a second term. It's a good point. This is the reason why Caesar attacked the Senate, right, in ancient Rome, is because Julius Caesar knew that he would be brought up on charges and that he was in the trouble bubble.
Yes.
And if he didn't go balls in, then he was going to end up in prison or in exile. So it was an obvious choice for him.
And once you become a dictator, and I've noticed this with Trump, you get all these people who just love the idea of a dictator and kowtow to you.
Yeah.
And like there's Maria Bartiromo, I'm not pronouncing her name correctly, but she loves Trump. And there was, as far as I know, there was no, yes, she's a conservative, yes, the people on,
She was on CNN Business and now she's on Fox Business. I was surprised that she would. I was surprised that she went so fascist so quickly, to tell you the truth.
Yes, but it was like, wow, we've got this powerful guy who tells it like it is, and I can't wait to get on my knees and lick his penis, even the guys. And I just see it all the time.
There was this interesting article from The Atlantic in 1941 in like August. So that maybe October or November. It was like only a few months before the U.S. entered World War II. And the author was talking about a game he was playing, right? Was, who's the fascist or who's the Nazi? So he would go into a dinner party and he would play this game in his own head, right, about the people he was with, right, his peers, his societal peers. And it's like, well, who would be a Nazi out of this group of people? And it's like, wow. I found that I've been playing that game myself when I'm out in public. Who would be the Nazi?
Yeah, I think we'd be surprised at how many people have actually flipped. Like I've seen a lot of solid progressives that were pro Bernie flip Trump. And even like the more rational Trumpers that I know, because I know a few, like when I say rational, I mean like they actually had legitimate reasons for voting for the dude.
Sure. Yeah.
As opposed to he placates to racist or he placates misogyny, whatever it was that a lot of people voted for him. There was some people out there that made rational decisions, and to a T, they all say, well, he's that outside guy, he's not that government guy, and I wanted him to shake up the system. They always use those words. And it's that same element though to what you were just saying. He says off the wall shit, and that appeals to people, even people that think they're making these decisions for the right reason.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, it's once again, and I just want to go talk about why Trump was popular to begin with, because he could rock the mic like a comedian. I've heard Joe Rogan say this, and even though Joe Rogan's a fucking horrible person, he still knows about the physics of comedy. And a lot of other comedians said that, is that he gets a rise in you, right? He gets an emotional response. And that's very powerful in politics, as against to Joe Biden, who just doesn't really excite a whole lot of people.
Yeah, which is what we were screaming when they were trying to put him above. I would have taken almost any of the other moderate corporate Democrats than Joe Biden. Like, get behind them because he'd be more animated. Yeah. They'd be more animated. Joe Biden, like his career is done. He's too old. It's just, I'm sorry. Like, and that sets the Republicans up to be able to say that, and that's all they say nonstop.
Yeah. And he's just not energetic, and it's a pity, right? Because
Yeah,
he's doing his administration. I want to back up because I don't want to be, I become more of a Biden administration apologist more and more lately.
I definitely think they've been more progressive than I ever thought they
Yeah.
would have been. But I definitely don't think. I think that that's kind of like a front, and they're not really real about it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, they're trying to do things. They are accomplishing things, and especially in a time that the legislature really doesn't do anything,
Mm.
it gets something done.
I also found it disturbing with
What was that?
Trump's drain the swamp routine. And I thought, don't you realize he's a swamp rat?
Yeah. Well,
When the
that's
swamp rat says drain the swamp, he's probably lying.
And his fight against the deep state and how he fooled people. Like I'm a billionaire that's going to go against the billionaire. Like what? And people they bought it hook, line, and sinker. Like I
Yeah.
can't like I have to go around and tell people like you understand he's a billionaire, right?
yeah, and nothing. Well, the thing is, nothing that he has done is going to make you think that he's going to be some kind of fucking Robin Hood. This is not that guy.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
It's pathetic, but they're good at winning narratives, and Trump's always been good at manipulating media. It's what made him Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's a professional. I mean, say what you will about him, he is. And I irritate my liberal friends a lot of, especially my girlfriend, when I say this, is that he does know how to do certain things, even if those certain things are horrible. Jesse Bear says
Yeah.
Trump and Bernie are only a year or two apart, but Trumpers think Bernie's much older. Trump is old. Yeah, I see that, Jesse Bear. I can see that. What are you going to say, Tobin?
Ooh, there's a couple of things I was gonna say. The game that you're talking about playing, who would be the Nazi in this group? I probably wouldn't have to. The odds are, if I was in a party over here, yeah, I'd probably hit a whole bunch of them. I could probably. But man, there was something else. I saw on a guy who basically kind of had a mild breakdown talking to what was it, the Congress or legislature. He was complaining about how nobody can get anything passed in the legislature.
Yeah. And that's true. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we are in so much trouble in terms of in so much trouble is that the legislature just doesn't work.
There is that problem where when democracy becomes bogged down, for example, in Germany, they had a very robust multi-party system that really didn't have an answer to the Great Depression, and certainly didn't have much of an answer after the First World War, and it was seen as foundering.
Yeah.
And I think that's in part the rise of the Nazis.
I will say is that the Weimar Republic, the democratic government that was in place in Germany between the wars, it had a lot of shit it had to deal with. And if nothing else, we wouldn't have the Bauhaus artistic movement without it. Right? So we say that. But yeah, it had to deal with the fucking victorious allies, the crazy amount of money that the French and the English wanted to get from them. They had
From
to deal
reparations,
yeah. And yeah, it was difficult. And when you look at, like, the Bolsheviks wouldn't have been able to take power in Russia even for World War One. The whole society was in shambles, or this whole society was in this maelstrom of chaos. And it's the same thing with the Nazis. The Nazis never got a majority vote in Germany. The conservatives brought him in because they thought that they could control Hitler, right? They made him chancellor because they thought, hey, we'll legitimize the country because he's gotten like 33% of the vote or something like that. And that should scare people too, when you think that the Nazis at the high point only got like 33% of the vote. So they took him in, made him chancellor, and then he just fucking rolled. He just rolled from there. What's up, Richard Madsen? Good to see you here.
Real quick,
will it only
sorry, real quick. and I love this topic, so I don't want to get us off this topic, but just to go back and kind of clarify myself, I'm not an ageist when I say that Joe Biden is too old. I mean, he's shown a cognitive decline.
Yeah.
I was pro Bernie. I didn't think Bernie was too old, even though I do believe Bernie is older. But Bernie doesn't show that cognitive decline. Trump does,
Well,
I believe.
I don't care if he's,
Yeah, I don't think he's too old to be president. I'll put it that way.
you have to be able to throw heat, basically,
Yeah.
right? You have to be able to throw heat. Bernie Sanders throws heat. He gets people excited. He gets them energized. Donald J. Trump, old guy, but he still gets people excited and revved up and jazzed. Joe Biden, it doesn't, I mean, the age just accentuates that problem with him in terms of getting crowds excited. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't mean to take us off the new point, because I love this point too. I've been looking at this. A good chunk of Germany was socialist, and another good chunk was they didn't like the Nazis or the socialists. They thought they were both evil. So this conversation is fascinating. When you look at Hitler's rise to power, it wasn't like this overwhelming thing that most people think. It was very complex, and he squeaked into power, and then just took hold of it once he got there.
Yeah, and he took advantage of situations, right? As they, emergency situations like the Reichstag fire. He took emergency powers at certain times. Who was it? Hindenburg. Hindenburg was the president, I think. So he was ancient and old, and he died. And yeah, there was a variety of. There was a long trip between like 1923, the beer hall putsch, to when the Nazis got into power in 1933. It was they got lucky. They just got lucky, and they wanted it. And you could say the same thing for the Bolsheviks in 1917. They got kind of lucky, and they wanted it.
Yeah, the Nazi Party had a really difficult time with communists in Germany too. And I think their secret, well, not so secret, and fascists love this, is that they like the idea of a private army, which is why they had the brown shirts. So they had an army within Germany that they could send to beat the shit or kill anybody they wanted.
Yeah.
And of course, once they became the government, the brown shirts were a problem, which is why they had the Night of the Long Knives, just to take out the trash.
Yeah, they had to. It was a political move too. So the Night of the Long Knives, for those of you who don't know it, it was when Hitler wanted support from the army, and the army's like, "We got this militia going on. You got these brown shirts, and we don't like that. They don't work within our system." So Hitler's like, "Well, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kill off a bunch of the higher ups, and we're just going to fold the brown shirts into the regular, quote unquote, regular military." And that's what he did. Yeah.
Brutal, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty much literally hold no bars, but there was economic situations that led up to that allowed Hitler to be Hitler, and hopefully the world learns its lesson from World War I and World War II. I don't think it has, but hopefully.
I think the insurrection was an example of that. That being able to repeat itself again.
Yeah, that was their shitty beer hall putsch, basically. That was their, we don't know what we're doing, so we're going to try this.
Actually, that's a good strategy. It should be referred to as the Republican beer hall putsch. And just keep calling it that.
It's definitely a scary thing. Like I said, I live here in Michigan, so there's a lot of sovereign citizens here, a lot of Michigan militias, and it's a crazy environment. You never really know who you're talking to, and I see a lot of chatter on Facebook around here that it's just scary, and it's like, I don't think that this is over. I think that was just the beginning, and that they're trying to really mobilize and assemble, if you will.
Well, the ground which allowed them to grow, right? Allowed fascism to germinate. It's still there. The legislature still doesn't do anything, right? Or hardly does anything. And when that happens, the power has to go somewhere. Political power goes somewhere, and it's in the courts and it's with the president. And so that kind, the system is still gummed up. And when things don't get done, people get frustrated. They will make bad choices.
I just noticed it's starting to snow. Here it comes. I love a good snowstorm as long as it doesn't push out the power.
Well, this is interesting, Richard Madsen. A lot of people don't know in this country that and we've talked about this, there were like eugenics county fairs.
Oh yeah.
And you can Google this shit up. And there are pictures that families would get blue ribbons for being genetically fit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he definitely took a lot of inspiration from America and what America was doing at the time. We basically gave him the playbook on genocide with our treatment of Native Americans during the American Indian War. And he writes about taking inspiration from that.
Sure. I don't hate snow as much as I hate the dark. Just shifting gears from Nazis.
I hate the cold of it. I like how snow is quiet. It's real, like it kind of dampens the volume. I like that.
It does do that. Yeah, I'm just, as long as I can stay dry, I can enjoy the colder weather. But getting wet and cold, being soggy and wet socks and no, I'll pass on that.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Vera writes, baby contest, as well as saying if people should breed more. Yeah.
So it's the Breeders Association then, Richard Madsen? That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. I need to look into that.
It sounds, yeah.
We had it in Alberta, and it was actually the laws regarding stopping people from breeding who were, say, mentally disabled.
Oh yeah,
and the Nazis actually studied our laws.
Yeah. I just want to say, Sammy, I think we got some background sound coming in from your mic, brother.
Yep.
Awkward pause.
We had it in Alberta.
He's hot. It's really loud.
It is too, dude. Yeah.
There we go.
Mute that atheist.
Okay, I think we're good now. Thank you. I was about to rant about something and I forget what it was. What was the last thing we said?
Oh.
I'm on bowl number 5, man. I don't know.
Bowl number 5. Rage. So the Duggars. I don't know if anyone's been following the Duggar stuff, but it looks like...
Oh, yeah, we were talking about eugenics.
Yeah, eugenics. Yeah.
Yes.
Who is it? Josh Duggar? The one with all...
Yes, 19 charges and counting.
Yeah, Josh Duggar. You know who's been following this is Katie Joy, and I know some people within the movement don't like Katie Joy, but I've always had I always liked Katie. She was a blogger back in Pathos before things happened, and she's big on Instagram. And Katie has been following the Duggars pretty well.
What's going on with them now? I haven't, I've covered them a lot, but I haven't looked at any of their recent activities. Well, I know that they're big in our government. They're big in lobbying our government for evangelicals.
So I'm just going to take a look at the first thing I saw for the news article here. Let's see. Prosecution. Password Josh Duggar used for child porn previously used for Duggar family Instagram. After testifying for several hours on Thursday afternoon, James Fottrell took the stand again on Friday, marking day 4 of Josh Duggar's child sexual abuse trial. Duggar, 33, had been accused of downloading files depicting child sexual abuse a bunch of days on a desktop computer at his then workplace, Wholesale Motors. So he downloaded, I like 82 King. So he downloaded child porn at his workplace, Wholesale Motors. And he's
I'd heard about that. I didn't know he was on trial for it. I should cover it. Not surprising.
And the whole quiverful movement is bizarre. It turns back the clock and turns women into baby making machines.
Yes, well, that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I've covered the Quiverful movement a lot. It's one of the reasons why I do cover the Dugars. What was his name? That they were really close with Bill Gothard, who pretty much started the whole Quiverful movement,
Right.
and it's kind of spread its wings to all of these really different fundamental evangelical denominations. You know, like even the NIFB and Stephen Anderson. They're deeply Quiverful.
You know, I've heard the anti-natalists, make their arguments and stuff, and it made me think that we need to do the opposite and take a page from the Christian evangelical fascist, and we should have babies. We should promote having a bunch of babies, and kind of give critical thinking, a good push.
Dude,
I don't know. I don't know.
All right,
I
so
don't
if
know
we
if I'm
started
right or
just
wrong.
making baby, so like they make it babies to have an army for Christ. So if we started making babies to have an army for the godless, they would be throwing us on the burning pyres before you could blink.
I think, and I would just want to say, I think that, and I am sympathetic to the thought that we need more skeptics and more humanists in our society. I think the way to do it, and I've been a proponent of this, and if I ever get enough money, or if I can ever get enough people to convince to support the idea, is that we'd be making basically what amounts to Camp Quest, the skeptic camp for kids year round in local communities, right?
That's awesome.
That
there's one that's started down here.
like a Camp Quest.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you don't know what Camp Quest is, everyone, once again, Google it. And it's basically summer camp where kids learn critical thinking skills. If I had a long-term dream, it would be, and once again, if I ever got enough money, it would be to start a pilot program where you would do kind of like a mixture of Camp Quest martial arts training, that kind of stuff in a community. And
that's
see
an
how
awesome goal.
Yeah, that would be one of the many. That would probably be the goal at this point for me, if I had enough cash. Yeah. Would I be making Jedi temples? Would there be Padawans? Maybe there would be, everyone. Maybe there would be.
Hey, I mean, anything's better than Bezos spending his billions to try to get to the moon. I mean,
that fucker.
Right?
He thanked all the people who made it possible, and like all those people who are underpaid in terrible working conditions. Yeah, they paid for that trip, Bezos. Fucker.
And I don't want to, because Jesse Bear was talking about Duggar once again, and there was like one video, and I'm going to get kind of explicit, so you might want to mute, but there was a video of a 3-month-old having wax put on them,
Jesus.
That's what I read. So.
Well, I mean, they start their torture fairly young. Not all of them. I don't want to paint a broad brush, but I've spoken about it. They have this thing called blanket torture, and it usually starts between 3 and 6 months old.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll put a baby on a blanket, and they'll put something shiny. Usually keys work the best, and you'll shake it, and you'll put it next to the baby. And as soon as the baby moves off the blanket to reach for those keys, you swat it on its ass. And you do that over and over again until the baby is no longer reaching for those keys.
I just want to say why fascism is stupid for another minute here. If you are keeping a baby from exploring the world using, then you are just breeding idiocy. You're just, you're damaging the baby, of course.
It's brainwashing. Yeah, you're
neurologically, but you
everything they'll ever want, they'll be afraid of it.
Yeah, and also they're just, one of the things, right, is that you're making these neurological synaptic, connections, right, and when you're told you can't, when you have a low stimulus environment, you're just making less of those connections at very important points of life. There's been a bunch of studies about that kind of stuff, and so once again, fascism is at its very core the stupidification. Yes, I use that word, the stupidification of the species.
Yeah, and blanket
Well,
torture is
that's
my word, not theirs. They call it blanket therapy, of course.
it is a part of the story Brave New World that the Deltas are tortured, where if they go to reach for a book, they get painful electric shocks.
Hmm.
And oh, sorry. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
tell
Hi,
you.
everyone.
it's an atrocious organization that does a lot of damage, and sadly, if you hear Christians saying they're homeschooling their children, there's a really good chance the curriculum is coming from the Gothards
Yep.
and the Quiverful movement.
Yeah, I don't know how much jail time he's facing, but whatever it is, it probably isn't enough.
Not enough, and he's probably going to die before he ever sees a day in jail. But yeah, I despise the man and what the man has done. Like he's if you don't know Bill Gothard, he started the movement, and he created this curriculum. He encouraged homeschooling for Christians, and he's been found to have sexually molested and abused. I believe the number's like around 17 now. I haven't looked at him in a while, and he's been like he hasn't. They haven't taken him to court in years and years and years. I don't understand what the holdup is.
Religious freedom, my friend. Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Gothard. What's the name of the at-home evangelical homeschool system? It's a series of books. It's self-directed, and I forget the name of it.
I can't remember the name of the curriculum I'm thinking about. I'm see if I can pull it up.
It's I've had people on the show. I've had people on this channel talking about it too, and I just always forget the name.
Is the term bullshit?
Pretty much,
I'm pretty sure I ran across it because I did make the choice to homeschool my kids, but I don't remember the names of them.
Right.
I just like would see, their bullshit, and I'd be like, no, next curriculum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you homeschooled your kids, Tobin, but you taught them evolution, and you didn't teach them creationism, and you taught them about the Big Bang and shit like that. Science.
Yeah, we actually just ended up buying books individually and building our own curriculum because, like, when kids are real small, it's actually really easy, and I would even promote, if you're a parent who has the ability to be around to teach your kids, the first years there's a whole bunch of curriculums, and it all comes in one big book, easy to do, but later on the next grades, 5th grade and up, you start running into it a lot more, where you have the creationist kind of thinking that's put into it.
So Jesse Bear came up. It's ATI, which is Advanced Training Institute, and that is Bill Gothard's education system.
Oh, is that
for
what?
homeschoolers?
Did you see a few years back? It might have actually been Texas, Tobin. The education board didn't get something taken out of textbooks, like evolution or something. So what they did was create these stickers that they stuck in the front of the books that warned the students that evolution is only a theory that some people believe,
Yeah.
and that it is
Oh,
not
yeah, I
a
heard about
scientific fact.
Yeah. Jesse
Yeah,
Bear
there
has
was
it in
a
the
court
side chat.
case, and they were forced to remove the stickers.
Yeah.
It was a good result, but
Sorry, real quick. It's Andrew. You might have said something as well. What I'm seeing is the IDLP religion and ATI was the
ATI.
homeschooling
Yeah.
program.
That's the Advanced Training Institute.
Yeah.
Ironic.
Well, it's funny that they use the word training, because you would train a dog. It's not education; it's training.
Oh yeah. Have you seen the old videos from William Pearl?
I think I have now.
How to training up your child. He wrote a book
Oh,
on it. I do believe it's.
I've
been,
read about it.
yeah.
I have looked at. I've looked at
Atrocious.
sections of the book. Yeah, it's horrible.
It makes you sick to your stomach, and you're thankful that it's just dolls, but you imagine all the kids, you know.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Too old to begin the training, to quote you.
Much fear in him.
All right, we're closing in. on
I hate that saying that that I could I brought you into this world and I could take you out, man.
No.
Oh shit! I heard that every day. I
Yeah.
hate it too.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, Jesse Bear, right? I mean, this is what we all know, is that if that kind of religion, that kind of faith, it attracts sociopaths, but also it creates incentives for sociopathic behavior at the same time. It is a positive feedback loop of making crap people, basically, of horrible behaviors. All right, on that happy note, we've hit our hour. Gentlemen, glad to see you here. Chat, everyone in the chat.
It's been real.
I'm glad to see that Jesse Bear, it seems like you're not coughing as much. I could hear that in the chat, maybe. I don't know. You haven't mentioned about coughing or anything, so hopefully you're feeling better. And Rage, yeah, dude, good luck. Good luck with your daughter and everything.
I'm like surprised they haven't called. I figured it'd be like first thing in the morning today, so I'm just like, I'm gonna have to start calling and bitching.
Dude, if there's one thing I found is that yes, calling and bitching is unfortunately part of the system. It's
Squeaky wheel.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're open now. They haven't been open all weekend, so I can actually call now. So I'm gonna do that. Y'all have a good day.
Take care, everyone.
Take care,
same
Knock.
thing tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Alhamdulillah.
Shabla hamla.